Old School Lane Casual Chats is brought to you by Old School Lane, producing various content from blogs, videos, and podcasts discussing about movies, TV shows, video games, and everything else in between since 2011. You can check out the podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, Overcast, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and YouTube. We're associated with Channel Frederator, Manic Expression, The Comic Book Cast, and The Arun Mehta Show. Everyone, welcome to a new episode of Casual Chats. I am Patricia, and I want to say thank you to all of my listeners who have been super patient since we haven't done a podcast in almost 2 months. But nonetheless, we wanted to, start things back with a bang, and so we have these very special guests to discuss about something that means a lot to us. So back with me is my co-host Arun Mehta from the Arun Mehta Show, and Arun and Patricia.
Hello, everybody. Currently serving multiple life sentences in the conservatorium for writing R-rated fan fiction about vegetables.
And back with us are Michael McKinney, aka Fusionater, and Paul Thomas, aka Gunther Fan 1992 from the Adventure Time podcast. So welcome back, guys.
It's awesome to be here again. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
And we have some very special guests, some of which who have never been on the podcast before. One guest I've known for quite a while. I've known him for almost a decade, but you may know him for his blog at Look at Disney. We have Tim Murphy. Welcome, Tim.
Hi, thanks for having me here. This is really neat.
And we have ourselves a super special guest that I just, that all of you guys on social media were saying, you need to have her on the show. Arun and I were just asking, hey, who can we ask that is a huge fan of this particular show that we're talking about? And everybody unanimously said this person. So she does reviews, she does analytical videos, she does reactions. She is Rebecca Rose. So welcome, Rebecca.
Oh, thank you so much. I didn't know the context behind that. Now I feel like there's so much pressure on me. I didn't know it was such a unanimous choice.
Well, I have to say, Rebecca, I mean, I've been on Reddit and I've been on Discord with most of the Owl House fans, and they really love your work. So, you think good job on everything that you've done so far.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so heartwarming to hear.
I can attest to that. I am a big fan of yours.
Oh, thank you so much.
I've seen a few videos of yours myself. They're pretty good.
Oh, thanks.
So yeah,
I'm just gonna fish for compliments. This is what this is gonna be. I'm just gonna be fishing for compliments the whole time.
Yeah. So today we're going to be discussing about the 2020 Disney animated series, The Owl House, created by Dana Terrace. And for those who are wondering what the show is about, it's about a young teenage girl named Luz Noceda as she wanders into an unsuspecting house where it takes her over to the Boiling Isles, where she meets up with a scheming witch known as Ida, and she learns about various things about how to learn how to become a witch. And along the way, she meets up with various characters. She goes over to a school for learning how to do magic called Hexside, and along the way, we get to learn about some, very suspicious schemes by the emperor known as Bellows. So, if any of you guys are interested in checking out the Owl House, you could watch it on Disney Plus, at least the first season. And in honor of the second season, which as of the recording of this podcast, is going to be coming out this Saturday. And it'll be airing every week until, I don't know, maybe the next few months. But nonetheless, we are very excited to talk about it. And I'd like to know from all of you guys, I guess we'll start off with our new guest. So Rebecca, how did you first learn about the Owl House?
I knew about the Owl House ever since it got greenlit back in, when was it, 2018 or so. It was greenlit alongside Amphibia, and I remember Alex Hirsch tweeting out that he was going to be a voice of this new show. It was going to be made by Dana Terrace, who used to work on Gravity Falls. And like I remember just seeing like the promotional art that came out for it when it got greenlit, and I remember instantly being like, this is going to be like the next big thing. Like this is going to be like the next big animated show. And so just ever since then, I've been following it. I haven't been covering it on YouTube the whole time. That didn't really start until quarantine. But in terms of just like following its like production and everything like that up till it's released, I've been aware of it since day one.
How about you, Tim?
A year before it aired, I believe, I found a review of the pilot episode from the Annecy Film Festival on oneofus.net. And funnily enough, when I found that review, I was taking a history of witches class at my college. So I've always been into witches. So seeing this review was like, ooh, this sounds cool.
Yeah. Michael, how about you?
It was actually a buddy of mine who convinced me to check out the show after several months of pestering me. I finally did it, and it was a little bit of a regret on my part for not getting into it a little quicker. Which actually worked out, because I might not have made videos on it at the time that I really would have wanted to in that case, so it for the best.
Right. How about you, Paul? I know that this is a little bit different for you, since I know that you talk mostly about Adventure Time stuff. So how did you first learn about the Owl House?
Yeah, well, it was Adventure Time plays into this. After that series ended, I was kind of rudderless and I needed a show. And so I jumped to the She-Ra fandom. And then once that ended, I needed another show. And everyone was saying great things about the Owl House. And I watched it at the very end of the season. Was it like August or something when that happened? August of 2020. So I caught up by that point and then joined the subreddit, which there's a lot of activity there, I'll put it that way. And I was really blown away by the fandom. I loved the show. I thought it was really sweet and fun, and I liked all the characters. And of course it has it reminded me of Gravity Falls in a way, but not, it wasn't too derivative or anything like that. I just liked the charm of it.
Yeah, Aaron and I have a very similar story of how we first got introduced to the show. So Aaron, I'll let you cover it.
Okay, so how this all began is that all my fans who were from Hey Arnold who gravitated to other shows, so they went to Gravity Falls, they went to Amphibia, they went to various other ones. All of a sudden, they just started freaking out. All of a sudden about how this other series ended, and it was like, oh, I can't believe all this happened. And I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, by the way, who was just jumping into the podcast. We'll probably do spoilers probably like very end of the show, but when like you hear about, like, you say you're sitting in your house and then you hear a smash and it's kind of like, what the heck was that? And you go outside and you realize that, like, there's been a car accident or something like that, and you kind of like see what's kind of like happened at the end before like all the events have taken place. And that's kind of how I was introduced to the Owl House. I kind of saw like the result of like what happened, and then I was kind of like just quizzical of like, what happened here? Like, so me and Patricia then were then told by the fans about the Owl House and what the show was about, and we decided, okay, well, let's check this out, let's see what it's like. And I have to say this, we get accused, me and Patricia, we're 90s kids, and late 80s kids. We grew up with Thundercats, we grew up with the Dreamstone, we grew up with, Rugrats, the Nicktoons, the cartoons, some of the early Disney Channel stuff that first came out. We were kind of part of a golden age of television, pending that my dad wasn't using his razor and the satellite didn't go off. It was like we were part of that kind of age of like the analog TV. It had a charm to it, these types of cartoons. And when we saw the Owl House, I'm being dead serious here. This took me back. This took me back to like, being a kid watching satellite television, enjoying, these cartoons again. And I never thought for a long time that I'd ever have this feeling again. But, here we are in this era of the Owl House, Gravity Falls, all these other great shows that are now coming out. It's the one great thing I have to say to Dana Terrace and all the guys who may be listening to this. You guys have done a phenomenal job and have really brought me back to like thinking, you know what, maybe there are some cartoons out there that aren't the Patrick Star Show, which actually do deserve some credit. You know.
Yeah, I've actually gotten a lot of requests for me to cover some newer stuff. I've had it for the longest time, ever since Casual Chats first started. It's not that they didn't appreciate me covering older topics, but I wanted to, for the longest time, wanted to cover something new. But the problem was is that a lot of people have covered it to death. That I needed to find a new angle to go into. So, I started dipping my toe in recent months with like newer stuff, and a lot of people really started to gravitate to it. And the Adventure Time podcast definitely was like the jumping point in which people were saying, "Yeah, we want you to cover some newer stuff." It's currently the most, like the third most listened to podcast on my Anchor page. So that just goes to show you that people really want this. And I've been wanting to check out the show for quite a while, but I just haven't had the time to do it, especially with me being busy with school and other stuff. So yeah, now we're finally here. So now we can finally talk about this show. So as usual, I always like to start off with characters, episodes, moments, and just then of course we'll go into like theories of season 2 and all that kind of stuff, which I know a lot of people are really excited about. So yeah, let's start off with characters. So who's your favorite character?
For me, it's easily Luz. She's basically a carbon copy of how I was as a kid. Just that extra nerdy, geeky, you know, thought process on everything. Just wanting to sink your teeth into just the world around you. And the way she bonds with people is this super awkward manner, but still super heartwarming. It every second she's on screen is the best part of the show, which works since she's the main character. It's part of why I love the show so much.
I mean, I'll say Amity, like immediately, like second she was on screen, because I'm just kind of like a sucker for like the jerks with a heart of gold kind of characters, and so like the first episode she appeared in, I was just like, yeah, this is gonna be my girl. This is the one that I'm gonna just ride with the rest of the series. So yeah, so Amity for me, but I also do love Luz for all the reasons that you just said. Just how like just adorable she is, and just like so endearing. But yeah, those are probably like my top two.
Yeah, Amity also has to be my favorite character of the show, without a doubt. But I say that with a bit of bias, really, because I've grown up with Helga Pataki from Hey Arnold, and there is various elements of Helga within Amity, and that's the reason why I root for her so much. And also, I like characters that obviously are unique and want to set break new ground and set new trends. I mean, she's obviously, obviously this isn't like her main part of the character, but the fact that she has she's a lesbian in the show, I think is very, very unique. We've never, obviously there's been Mr. Simmons, there's been various other gay LGBTQ characters, but not to the as exposed, I would say, as Amity is. And also with Luz as well. Obviously, she's bisexual in this show. So I think I like these characters that are breaking ground. King, I think, is I love King so much in this. When he first came up on screen and he was like, he was supposed to be like this ferocious demon, and we just saw him with like this rubber duck, and then Luz just kind of just says, "Hey, Kalida," and like just says how cute he is, like, and then he has to say, no, I don't know who your little guy is. Who is this monster? Like, I love that whole introduction and all the story that builds over to that, with their evolving friendship over the show. I think that is great as well. So Amity number 1, King number 2, and everybody else I'd have to kind of like, I'd probably have to do a top 10 for that, I think, if I have to go further, but yeah.
All right, for me, well, I'll just say Lumity, because I'm a Lumity shipper.
I am too.
What's funny, at first I thought I was going to hate Amity, but I'm sure you guys have seen it, the Little Miss Perfect animatic starring Amity. That made me a fan. It's so cute. It's basically an animatic set to the song Little Miss Perfect of Amity trying to hide her crush on Luz. So that made me reevaluate Amity as a character. It's like, she's so adorable and I want to protect her at all costs. And then Luz is very special and personal to me because she's bisexual like me, she's neurodivergent like me, and she's into witches like me.
Yeah, those are good. Those are good reasons. How about you, Paul?
Oh, this is a hard one. I'm gonna say Amity as well. the whole sort of like aloofness and trying to be very serious with your studies, but also, you know, wanting to have a little more fun kind of deep down reminds me a lot of my wife. I think that's the same reason I enjoy characters like Marceline and stuff like that. You know, these kind of outwardly scary, angry kind of people, but deep down, you know, that they're good people, heart of gold sort of story. I also love Ida. She is hilarious. And I love this idea of an extremely powerful creature or monster or witch or what have you that's like very, very, very talented, just sort of being a you know, kind of a petty criminal almost, just living on the outskirts of town doing whatever she wants. Because so often you see people that are like super powered, supercharged. They're either super evil or they're like a superhero. I like that there's kind of a little bit of a gray area here where she's good, you know that she's good, but she also is, you know, not the most morally, what's the word? Most I'm blanking on the word now. She's got some stories there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's got some stories that to tell. So I really like her as well.
Yeah.
And Hootie.
She's like Grunkle Stan.
Yes, absolutely, very much.
Yeah, there is the you know, obviously on Grunkle Stan, there's obviously the you know, the relation to that. But I would like to ask everybody a question. I don't know if everyone's seen Rick and Morty. I mean, would you say there's some Rick Sanchez in Ida? Would you say
Rick Sanchez, if he cared about people other than Morty, a little bit.
Haven't seen the show. I can't comment.
Neither's Patricia. I'm going to get her to see it.
Yeah, I have not seen this show either, so I really need to watch it at some point.
I think that's an interesting comparison because I feel like the internet, the dialogue online has largely been kind of anti-Rick, some of the recent stuff. So the idea of kind of inverting that but keeping the genius there is very interesting. So I never thought about that before.
Yeah. As for me, I already said this if you tune into Aaron and Patricia, but Luce is my favorite character for a lot of reasons. Very similar to Timothy. I relate to her a lot because she has a lot of the things that are essentially me. She's Dominican, I'm Dominican. She's neurodivergent, I'm neurodivergent. She loves otters, I love otters. And also,
otters with the dark side.
Yes, otters of the dark side. And also, she befriends people. It kind of reminds me of like a shonen anime character in which like you have these people who are either like really lost, alone, or kind of grumpy. But when she comes along, it just brings out the best in them. And that really is great. You know, when you see, like Ida for the first time, she's just like this, sniving criminal who's just constantly hiding. And all she cares about is scheming people to buy like junky stuff from human society. And just not going into the directions of the coven. But then Luce comes along and she has to be like this parental figure that she never even expected. And then when we see in the last episode, like she really cares about Luce to the point to which she's willing to give herself up to the emperor and stay in her owl form. And also with like Amity, you were saying earlier about how she's like this grump and she has a lot of baggage in her due to the fact that she comes from this really strict parental upbringing, and her brother and sister are like these geniuses, and she gets constantly embarrassed and she's kind of has to like hide away. But then when she sees Luce, their interactions with each other weren't exactly the best, especially since she was she got into trouble a lot due to the fact that she pretended to be an abomination for Willow to help with her project. And then she was over at the convention to see which coven that she was going to go into, and then she kind of got herself into trouble there. So they didn't exactly have the best foot forward. But then as time went on, she starts appreciating Luce for who she is by being like really unique and different, and she can really connect with her. And that's a fantastic thing that I see a lot in kind of like myself with Luce. And Ida's a great character as well. She's just super hilarious. And just the fact that she's just doesn't care about a lot of things. It just makes me just makes me laugh every time. Like her and King have just such a great chemistry together, and with her and Lilith. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, those are definitely some of my favorite characters, and so is Amity as well. She's fantastic, especially with a similar reason as Aaron said about like, Helga's my favorite character from Hey Arnold, so I definitely really like Amity for sure. All right, with characters out of the way, let's go into episodes. So, what have been your favorite episodes, especially with this first season?
I mean, for me, I feel like the first two episodes that I feel like really hooked me into the show, not to say that I didn't like the episodes before, were The Intruder and Convention. Intruder I thought was really great because it kind of set up how dark the show could get, which I really liked and appreciated because I don't think we've really seen something like that since probably like Gravity Falls when it comes to like Disney shows of how dark and creepy things can get. It also introduced, a whole plot thread of Ida and her backstory that will be, elaborated on as the season goes on. So I really liked that episode. And then Convention, I think it set up a lot of the world building of how like covens work and, kind of like the first introduction of Bellows, because that's when we first get his name dropped. And then it introduces like Lilith as a character, and that develops with, Ida and Lilith's relationship throughout the series and how they interact as sisters. And then it also had Luce and Amity, and seeing their relationship develop after a really tumultuous episode from episode 3. So I think it just introduced so much that I absolutely loved and was developed throughout the first season, that I was like, Convention, I was like, this is going to be kind of like the episode that I'm going to look back on and like, oh, like this show is something special.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cliche to say probably, but Enchanting Gromfright is my favorite episode of the season. I know it's a fan favorite, but I honestly, the week before that episode aired, I was so nervous that Disney was going to back out and they wouldn't do what I was hoping they would do with Luce and Amity. But the fact that they went there made me so happy, because I was having dreams about that episode the night before it aired.
Mm. Yeah, it definitely, for sure.
I think for me, yeah, definitely the last 3 episodes. And I mean, I think Rebecca can probably fill us in more because she's obviously stuck with Dana. But at the very beginning of the show, didn't Disney like have a lot of input in how the whole thing was going to set up? And it wasn't until later on. So like when we got to like the last 3, maybe a couple of episodes, that Dana was given free reign to kind of like take the show in the direction she wanted to take it in.
Yeah, during the first half of the season specifically, she said that there was a lot of input from Disney. She was having like 6 executives like giving her different notes, which I can only imagine is kind of like a too many cooks in the kitchen kind of a situation where just so many hands getting into it that you can't get the product that you want at the end. And she specifically said that it wasn't until Understanding Willow where she really started to kind of get more free reign and control in making the episodes what she wanted them to be. And I think that really shows, because I mean, as a viewer, I thought that like Understanding Willow to Young Blood Old Souls, like those span of episodes and everything between, were the strongest episodes of the season. So like that's reassuring to me as a viewer, because I'm like, okay, like if towards the end of the season, even as a viewer before knowing that, I was like, these are the strongest episodes, like it's reassuring going into season 2, because I'm like, oh man, like they're just going to keep going with this momentum then from there on. But yeah, she had a lot of input from executives earlier on.
Yeah, because I just think that's the last 3 episodes of the season, I think obviously definitely are the strongest, and it shows. You have Enchanting Gromfright, which Amity comes far more out of her shell and is even willing to defend Luz, and in that case, you can see a relationship starting to develop between them. And I mean, I was a bit confused. Like, I was asking myself, did Luz actually see the note that kind of like got dropped down? It was kind of implied that she didn't. So I don't know what happened. When obviously, I was going into spoilers again, but I mean, so that was. But I like to think that now we've got a kind of like a starting point for like this. This Lumini relationship to flourish, I think, is a great thing. When we got into Agony of the Witch, oh my, to see Luz be defeated and to break down and cry, openly weep, how could you not feel that? Like, and to have it's also as well, it's when I can honestly say I've not seen a more emotional moment, I think, on the very end of the episode once since the Rugrats episode, which I like to call the day the music stops, when Chucky finally finds out about her mom, and Chaz has to sit down and talk about her. You know,
I
like
forgot about that episode until
exactly.
now.
Yeah, it's like it kind of took me back to that moment where it's kind of like, oh wow, this is getting into a really emotional moment right now, and like you feel so sad for Luz, and oh my goodness, and then when we get to the final episode, and when she just picks up a weapon and says, you know what, we're gonna go in there and we're gonna get her, and then she has that conversation with Bellows, but she doesn't win the fight. It's a stalemate if anything. And but even though you still feel like there's a sense of accomplishment that comes out of that whole thing, and then there's like a sense of like maybe Emperor Bellows isn't all that powerful as that we're being led to believe. Like I think we talked about characters before. I think one character who has been not really discussed all in that much detail, I think, has been Emperor Bellows himself. Like, what the hell is he? Like, is he the T-1000 from Terminator 2? I mean, like, is he an android? Is he a cyborg? I mean, like, watching that last episode, I had many questions. That's all I can say. Like, who is this guy? What's he doing? Like, that portal device is he building? Like, is this going to be the Resonance Cascade scenario from Half-Life all over again? Like, just like my imagination just went into overload, right after that.
Yeah.
Don't
worry.
I have so many questions.
Yeah, we'll go into like our theories like toward the end of the show. But for now, let's just continue on.
It's Hop Pop from Amphibia. Called it here.
There we go. We're gonna have an episode where we have Gravity Falls, Amphibia, and the Owl House collide into like this huge crossover special. That's exactly what's
there's
gonna happen.
another show with an evil ruler.
Disney Channel Endgame. That's what it's going to be called. Like,
there you go.
Yeah.
I actually want that to happen so badly. I don't care if it's canon or not.
Just put this in your brains for a second. Just imagine this. You have Emperor Bellows. Like, there's this whole battle been going on. You've got Luz, like, just, ready to pack it in. Everyone else is on the floor. And then all of a sudden she hears something in her ear saying, like, oh, hey, we're here. And then a portal opens. And out comes, Anne, Marcy, and, and they all come out of this portal. And like they got all the toads around them, and then all of a sudden another portal opens, and it's all the people from like other Disney Channel shows, and like they all just come out, and we're ready for this like big final fight.
Yes, all of them, everybody's
Recess,
in.
The Recess gang come out, like it's everybody for like the last 20 years just comes out, and we just have this big massive battle.
Yes, throw Darkwing Duck and the gummy bears, and you're done. We're done. Bye.
Call them the
Avengers. Also, just invite everyone from DuckTales.
Sure, why not? Let's put them in there too. Anyway, so let's continue on. Oh my gosh, sorry everybody. Anyway, so moving on.
My favorite episode was Enchanting Gromfright, as well as Adventures in the Elements. Both of these episodes kind of had my two favorite elements of the show put together. The further development of the Lumini relationship, which is probably the most well-done characterization in the show so far, is the advancement of these two's relationship, even if Luz isn't fully on board in her mind with that yet. And also just the environment of the Boiling Isles being put to full use, especially with the dance scene in Enchanting Gromfright, that piece of American Sakuga. It just showed how beautiful this show could be, but also in Adventures in the Elements, where you have this beautiful landscapes, especially the scenes where she's learning to do the spells. They're just very strong uses of this amazing and mysterious world that we still probably have a lot to learn about.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you get the feeling that a lot of the action scenes were inspired by Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Well, Spencer One, who works on Castlevania, the Netflix series, worked on a lot of the crucial scenes that people brought up. Like, he did the fighting scenes with Ida and Lilith in Convention, and with the last two episodes. He also did the dancing scene. So yeah, you can definitely tell that, somebody who knows a lot about choreography when it comes to like these epic scopes was as a part of it as well. And let's also not forget about the person who is behind like the main art design of it is Steven Sugar, Rebecca Sugar's brother, who also worked on Steven Universe as well with the background designs. He also played a huge part in like the designs and background elements as well.
Working on Castlevania, I'm surprised Emperor Bellows didn't turn around to Luz and say, "What is a human? A miserable pile of secrets."
At some point, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, we
the
got Can Love
crew
Bloom
is
on a battlefield, so you know.
Yeah.
the crew is interesting for this show because Enchanting Gromfright was written by Noah L. Stevenson's wife, Molly Ostrand, I believe it is, and that was
Yeah.
her first TV writing credit.
Yeah, it is. That's
Good
actually
job.
crazy. Mm-hmm.
Unsponsored plug, but she has a new LGBTQ book out called The Girl from the Sea.
Oh, awesome. Well, definitely check it out. I know Mermaid is technically over, but you know what? It's like, who cares?
Well,
Go pick it up.
Pride Month starts tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that's right. Happy Pride Month for the LGBTQ crowd who is listening in. I guess this is very appropriate since the Owl House does have that kind of representation. So yeah, I'm actually
Also, isn't Luca coming out soon as well from Pixar?
Oh, that's right. Yes, it is. It's going to be coming out in a few weeks.
Yeah, but ready
Only
for
on
fan-out
Disney
crossovers.
Plus.
Well, I guess it's not safe for theatrical releases as of yet, but you know what? I mean, we'll be able to see it pretty soon.
True.
Yeah. Anyway, so Paul, your favorite episodes?
I think mine is probably Lost in Language. I work at a library right now, and I worked as a kind of a shelver and children's book assistant when I was in high school. So seeing Amity do that sort of stuff kind of brought me back memories. I also thought the Blight twins are quite fun. And I'm hoping to see more of them in the upcoming season. But I really liked the monster in that one, that horrifying rabbit thingy that kind of came alive, and I can't remember exactly what its name was, but it was just this like sort of Resident Evil style monster that was chasing them through a library. It was a very spooky episode, and I appreciate that. And it had all the characters and the relationships that I'm kind of interested in. I also like the Wing It Like Witches episode just for its ridiculous send-up of not only sports movies but also Quidditch and the irrationality of stuff, the rules in the Quidditch system.
Yeah, where Luce was talking about, what's the point of even playing the game?
Yeah.
All you need to do is just catch this one item, and
Yeah.
then you win the game automatically. It's like, yeah, that's. I love how they were able to poke fun of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, they've taken a lot of jabs at Harry Potter. I mean, they even made fun of the Sorting Cat.
Oh yeah, they did. Yes.
With the bent traffic cone thing.
Yes.
I just love the fact that the Owl House, and I can imagine. I mean, if this is going to go on for like another 2 seasons, that this is going to the Owl House will take no prisoners. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fantasy worlds which are going to get critiqued. I think in this season as we go along. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a Narnia jab, and it's like, wait a minute, in the last episode, it was all a dream. Luce was just daydreaming, and all of a sudden she wakes up, and then the bus arrives for her to go over to the normal camp. It's like nothing happened.
Oh man.
That would be.
It could be worse. They could.
Yeah.
At one point, they could probably kill off one of the main characters, and then they just have like Luz in bed, just waking up from a dream, and then finds them in the shower. It's just.
There was an episode of Ben 10 like that where he just wakes up in a world where Gwen's the one who got the watch, and it's just not solved by the end of the episode. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. As for like my favorite episodes, that's really tough. I mean, I do agree that Enchanting Gromfright is definitely like a fan favorite episode for a lot of people, because it just really just brings up the relationship between Luce and Amity. I really do like gravitate the most to like what you were saying earlier, Paul, about the fact that with Luce and Amity's relationship, how it was just starting to build up with the fact that they were just like not really caring too much at first, but then when Lost in Language aired, in which like they really had to work together so that they can be able to stop themselves from being attacked by the rabbit, and then all of a sudden they were able to work together and then have everything back to normal. Lost in Language is a great episode, but Understanding Willow was definitely the one that really like gravitated me to watch even more of it. One of our followers on Twitter, Connor, was even mentioning this, saying like, the show is really good, but then when you get over to the second half, that's when things get really, really good. And I felt that was the one for sure that really like gravitated me to it, because you have this really strained relationship between Willow and Amity, in which they used to be best friends in the past, but We don't know how it happened. I mean, we
Mm.
were kind of hinted on that with the third episode. I was a teenage abomination, and then when that episode aired, and we get to see them trying to fix up Willow's memories when it was burned, and then when we got to see that scene where Amity was telling Willow, "I don't want to be your friend anymore because you're weak," because she wasn't developing her powers as quickly as everybody else. But it turns out that she was forced upon it by her parents, saying, "Leave this girl behind, become friends with the daughters of the people that we work with because we want to have you up in the higher class. I mean, you're a blight." It kind of definitely gives me like Malfoy personas, in which, like, you know how in like Draco Malfoy, where he's like befriending all the people of Slytherin and everybody else is just garbage, especially with like Harry and Ron. So it definitely just gave me those kind of vibes. But unlike most cases in which when they would, Amity would like stay as the enemy or as the antagonist until like maybe later on in the series, she actually becomes like much more accepting of it, like much earlier than I was expecting, and that actually made her into a much more richer character. I'm glad that they were able to do it like much more quickly, as opposed to like, I mean, it took us about like maybe 4 or 5 seasons for Helga to reach that, and it took us about like 2 or 3 or 4 seasons for Marceline to reach that. So I'm glad that with Amity's case, it was able to not only become much quicker, but then she just becomes this blushing mess every time she meets up with Luz. It's just so hilarious, and
I'll tell a hilarious story after the Willow episode, and that is that Patricia had to kind of talk me down when I was like, when the whole parents thing came out. I was like, I would basically say, these people are worse than Big Bob and Miriam Pataki from Hey Arnold. Like, how could you be so disgraceful? And like, she said, well, I would say that, Mr. and Mrs. Blight would at least gave them their lunch and fed them and, actually been responsible parents. Well, so I think, she got me to a point where it's kind of like, okay, we've got this example of Big Bob and Miriam of like massive underparenting, and then we've got Mr. and Mrs. Blight, which is like massive overparenting. So
yeah,
but this show pulls at your strings. It really does.
it does.
It really does.
The only apparent fundamental difference, though, between Harry Potter and the Owl House is that there hasn't yet been a dance scene between Harry and Malfoy, so I want that to be corrected.
Flash fic exist.
No, I in terms of how quickly they moved the plot characterization for Amity forward, though, I totally agree with you, actually, because I thought that would be the worst thing that could happen with this show, is that they just drag it out for the entire show, maybe even do like Star Versus did, where they create an entire harem for one of the characters rather than moving a relationship forward. So far, this is going fantastically, in my opinion.
I can just imagine the Owl House crew probably like saying, looking at all the other shows, like, they haven't done this yet, they haven't done that yet, they've never done this, they've never done that. Let's put it all in this show and let's give them everyone they want, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best things about the show is it didn't wait, and the first season confirmed our lead as gay and bisexual. You get so many shows the creators say after the fact, oh yeah, she was bi, but we just couldn't say it on the show. Like apparently after Equestria Girls ended, Sunset Shimmer was bisexual, but that was never mentioned in any of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess it is true that we have come very far with the representation of the LGBTQ community, especially over the past decade. Where I remember, like, when we were kids, like back in the 90s, where, Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune, they're not a couple, they're cousins.
Yeah.
But they kept all the scenes in that were implicative anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Made it so much worse.
Yeah, getting kind of awkward.
They're really close cousins.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Exactly.
Which, to be fair, at the time, America was more okay with.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I mean, like, this is going to be an ongoing fight. I think we're going to have with various, people. Obviously, where we saw, Patricia covered the story of how Arthur had, an episode banned because obviously, Mr. Radburn came out as gay, and
Yeah.
there was that, and also we got the situation with Russia, which is giving letters over to Disney saying don't put in LGBTQ characters into your shows, or else there'll be repercussions. Like, probably send the KGB after them or something like that. But, it's just, unfortunately, this is going to be an ongoing thing, I think, for the LGBTQ representation in media, I think. And so while we do have this now, I mean, it's something that, creators, producers, studios themselves are going to have to really put up and fight for, because you know, the what they're having to do right now. I'm hearing about, you know, what's going on in China, what's happening going on in Russia, and what's happening going on in places in Africa. I think it's going to be an ongoing struggle, I think, and I really hope that Disney and you know, all the creators of these shows are going to, you know, stay in their corner and fight, and you know, realize that, you know, these people, you know, deserve representation, because they
Yeah.
do.
Of course.
Oh,
I think generally we're seeing that move from studios like Cartoon Network and Disney Channel, where the executives are seeing that shows with these elements work. They're not setting the world on fire. So hopefully, as time goes on, it's just more and more of a regular thing, rather than, you know, this huge, great thing that's singular and never happens again.
I want to say also the same thing for neurodivergent characters, because I've seen my fair share of characters who are either considered autistic or OCD or any of the sort, and they're pulled off to the extreme to the point in which they're insufferable. And I'm hoping that, you know, this would also be like a standard saying, hey, you know, there's characters of the of neurodivergency who are not really annoying or just like, you know, really awkward to the point in which like they can't be fun or they can't be lively, or you know, people treat them weird. It's like, oh, you know, I feel sorry for them, I don't know what to do with them, or something like that. It's like, no, I mean, people who are neurodivergent can be able to be just as expressive as anybody else. And I'm hoping that this
Thank
would
you.
be a proper showcase that, hey, you know, somebody like Luce, who is neurodivergent, and yes, she could be a little bit awkward, but who isn't at the age of 14? And you know, that she can be very lively and she can be very expressive, and also that, you know, a lot of people can gravitate to her saying, oh, the reason why you're weird is because you're a human, not because, you know, you have some thing going on with you that you can't help. So I'm hoping that this will be the case as well.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, Patricia, and I honestly hope this gets people thinking away from the stereotype of thinking as of neurodivergent people as Sheldon Cooper.
Yes.
Don't get me started. Anyway, but yeah, I think that with that out of the way, I think that we need to discuss about, you know, I guess now we can go over our theories for season 2, because oh man, like we already know what the first 5 episodes are going to be about, and we already know about what the synopsis are, and we know that Dana Terrace had mentioned that season 2 is going to be leading to the direction that she wanted to in the beginning. And I think that this will be very interesting to cover, because man, when I was hearing about the plot synopsis about what the show was going to be about, it's like, okay, this is where things are going to be really interesting. So if you guys don't want to be spoiled with it, then, you know, you can stop this portion and then we'll just go over to like the conclusion. But I really want to go over like what the next 5 episodes are going to be presenting. So they are Separate Tides, Escaping Expulsion, Echoes of the Past, Keeping Up Appearances, and Through the Looking Glass Ruins. And man, the synopsis of this is really interesting. I mean, we have Luz feeling guilty about what happened to Ida, and she decides that she's going to go over to this location to get a bounty. We have an episode focusing on Amity's parents and getting Luz, Gus, and Willow expelled from Hexside. We have an episode with Lilith, Luz, and Hootie going over to this island to find out more about King's Pass. We have an episode with Gus trying to impress some kids from another school, but then we have another side plot where Luce and Amity are going over to the library. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are going on, and this just makes me really excited about, you know, what the show is going to be doing for this next season.
Yeah, let's get the elephants out of the room out of the way first. So there's the one where Amity's parents are going to get some of our most beloved characters expelled from the school. I'm sure a lot of fans were basically saying, "Please hand me my clear raincoat, my copy of Huey Lewis and the News, and an axe." And I think Yeah, there was definitely some pretty interesting exchanges, I think, on the Reddit when these synopsises came out. But, here's the thing about this. I mean, and it's rich of me and rich of Patricia and everybody else who's been through the grinder of this, of cartoon shows where they throw in this spanner into the works, and then all of a sudden the protagonists have got to figure out how to get out of the situation. We've been through this so many times before. Aang being killed, shenanigans that happened in Dragon Ball Z, various other things. Lion-O losing his sword, and and Samurai Jack losing his sword too. In the last season of the Adult Swim. So we've been through a lot. I'll say, like, we're desensitized to this kind of thing. So in regards to them being expelled from the school, I mean, keep this in mind. Like, if you looked at like the intro that came in there, I mean, they weren't drawing spell circles with their hands anymore. It looks like to me like their magic's going to get a serious upgrade in this episode. I think what doesn't kill you makes you stronger at the end of the day. So I think whatever this dangerous deal that they're going to make with Amity's parents, I think is really going to backfire on them. I think, and we're going to see our characters basically looking like they can probably take on the world. I think at this point. So I'm somewhat excited for this effort. Don't get me wrong; they can seriously fuck it up. I'm not saying that they can't, but in regards to my experiences, where episodes like this where they really want to put people in jeopardy, usually the protagonists usually end up coming out smelling like fresh roses.
Yeah.
Out of all of this, and one thing also to. And on top of that, I think we're going to see in this episode Amity completely turn on her parents and say, look, I don't want to be ruled like this anymore. I do not want my hair color like this anymore. I do not want to, be part of this whole blight, infrastructure that you've built around me, which you're strangling me with. And by the way, please stop trying to hook me up with the boy down the road with the rich parents. FYI, I'm gay!
It kind of reminds
in terms of her parents, I really hope it goes that way, but I feel like they're setting us up for a moment where for whatever reason Amity has to betray Luce, and I feel like that's just gonna be the heart yank moment for the fans as opposed to the big power moment that we might be hoping for.
I don't know. It's
I want the big power moment, and
I think we're gonna get the big power moment. I just don't think we're gonna get that before we get our hearts yanked out.
And I wouldn't be shocked if we do see Amity's natural hair color this season. And it's a wild theory, but in the season 1 intro, she was in her school uniform. In the season 2, she's in her everyday clothes, and that's showing her being more natural and more herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. I also want to ask for you, Rebecca, because you analyzed each of the episodes. I guess I forgot to mention this, but every first letter of all the titles spell out a phrase that is going to be crucial to each season. I forgot to mention that. So why don't you go over that really quick?
Yeah, so there's two different types of codes that are in this series. So one's like an episode title code, where if you take the first letter of each episode, it spells out a message relating to that season. And then there's like another one where in each episode there's like an I symbol with another set of symbols that you actually have to go through and decode, and then that's another message that pertains to the series. So I think for season 1 it was a witch loses a true way for season 1. And then at this point now with season 2, now it's seek and then a word starting with T. So a lot of people are thinking it's gonna be like seek the truth or something like that, and then whatever's after that, we'll have to wait for more episode titles to come out. But yeah, the codes and the messages are such a fun aspect of this show to really, kind of like sink your teeth into, and just to, go through, decipher things, think about how it's gonna apply to the series, how it's gonna apply to the season. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, yeah, like
hey guys, I gotta go. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much, Chim. Why don't you quickly plug and promote your stuff right before you go?
Well, okay, as Patricia said, I have a blog called A Look at Disney, and right now I'm currently going through and looking at every LGBTQ plus Disney character, some better than others.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, thank you so much for coming on by, Tim.
It's the best Disney blog on the internet.
Cool. So, anyway, sorry, what were we up to again?
Yeah, the coding, yes.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, what other show does this?
Gravity Falls.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
Gravity Falls. Well, yeah, but Gravity Falls. Yeah,
Great.
like this is such unique. I really like how they sneak secret things into all of this as well, and yeah, I love the Easter eggs they add into there as well. Like the fact that there's a a Metal Gear Solid reference, and there's quite a few of them in the show as well. And the fact that
Remember when we saw the Final Fantasy sword?
oh yeah, we saw Cloud Sword as well, and things like that. Like I don't know, like they're trying to like kind of prod Nintendo to get lose into like the next Smash Brothers game. I don't know, but yeah, like that'd be something. But I just I love the fact that they are aware of like other things in the world, and they end up in the Owl House. And actually, they even explain that as well. Like a lot of the things apparently that get inspired on Earth apparently do come from this Boiling Isles place. And that just gives you even more intrigue about what is this place, again, what's this place about? Like this Titan that died, that fell over and then created this isle. Like what the whole backstory about was that? And that's the one thing we didn't actually bring up, I think, in season 1 is that's the Bat Queen. Like I'm getting the feeling that she was the of the Titan, related in some way. And she's gonna like be some kind of part of like the solution in some way about figuring out the secret of like what this whole place is about. It's like I really don't want to be left with the fact that just that this is just basically Florida with some animation on it. Like I want let's branch this out. Let's do something with it.
I actually think a large portion of what season 2 is going to be about is going into the Boiling Isles backstory and learning more about it. A big, revealing moment in the first season was the lack of magic completely in the human world when Luz briefly was sent back there, and the Boiling Isles is referred to as what gives the gift of magic, and I think we're going to learn a little bit more about why that is. This giant, and everything to go with it in season 2. I'm actually kind of hoping that the title for the season 2 episodes turns out to be like Seek the Source or something like that for where the magic comes from. That would be great. Maybe it's the drafts. That's why they had to get rid of them.
Awesome. There was so much mythology teasing in like the last few episodes, and I remember after seeing at the end of the first season, I went online. I was like, "What's up with the Titan?" And I was finding there was not a ton of stuff at the time. And I was surprised because it seemed like that's a really big thing, a really big plot point that we're going to see answered. That's one shot when...
back. Sorry about that. False alarm.
Okay.
Okay, he's back.
You don't get to plug yourself again.
That's whether that is the end of the show.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, go ahead, Paul. We're sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say that one shot at the end, in the last episode or second to last, where you see the heart of the Titan, that grotesque, horrifying, beating heart, and you're like, wait, or maybe it's not of the Titan, but I'm speculating here. It's like something's going on here. Something's weird with this land, and we're not looking like the characters aren't acknowledging it just yet. But I'm a sucker for that sort of like mythology stuff.
Seeing that heart, it kind of reminded me like the in Halo Combat Evolved when they try and rescue the captain, and he's turned into like this big massive like flood thing. Like it can remind me of that really. But I really love them to do, and they won't do it because it's Disney, but I like them to like move. They have to move the Owl House to like another location to like protect it, so they move it like between the legs of the Titan, and they basically say, well, Emperor Bellos may have the heart of the Titan, but we have it by the balls.
Oh my goodness.
Owl's Moving Castle, the Disney version.
We're reliving the Baba Yaga. Welcome aboard to Russian mythology. And I don't know. I mean, that's just the thing, is that it really brings up a lot of these interesting theories as to where the show is going to be going. And I think that we'll definitely be learning more about that in this coming season. And we already know, according to Dana Terrace, that it's only going to be 3 seasons. And then the 3rd season, each episode is going to be like 45 minutes long. So technically it'll be 6. But I have an interesting theory that maybe that all the stuff that's going on with like Emperor Bellos and all that kind of stuff, I think that it'll conclude in season 2, and then maybe season 3 will kind of be like maybe kind of like an epilogue, maybe where Luz finally goes back into the human world, and then maybe something happens in the Boiling Isles where she has to go back later on, because before the Owl House was created, Dana Terrace was showing off like art designs of what the characters would look like, and they look completely different. They're a lot older, first of all, and they look more edgy. So and apparently, according to like various people from Reddit and from other sites such as Instagram and Tumblr, where they really like the designs of this character. So I wouldn't be surprised at some point that maybe Dana Terrace will incorporate maybe something of that sort.
I also want to know, like, this guy in the mask that Emperor Ballas is ordering around. Like, who is this guy? And I mean, one thing I would like them to do, and but obviously doing this, he's going to become the most despised character in the entire show, is that he secretly goes to Hexside and he basically flirts with Luz, and basically Amity is not best pleased. And you can probably imagine. And then we get to the point where, I mean, to tell you what, actually, let's go in this direction. Let's say Michael's theory is, Luz is going to betray the guys, even though they come out of it unscathed, and then obviously Luz and Amity part ways after that, and obviously everyone starts crying. But then we get to the episode where they're forced to go through the dangerous part of the library and they have to rekindle. But then obviously they find out that the guy in the mask is actually the guy in the school flirting with Luz, is actually spying on them, for Emperor Ballas. They find out about that, and Amity just kicks the crap out of him, and we all just go very happy, when that happens. That's one direction they could go in with this character, I think. Will they do it? I don't know. But and then there was another thing as well, which I mean, obviously Emperor Ballas himself. We need to figure out what the hell is going on there.
He's been Hootie this whole time.
I was gonna say we haven't talked
Been in
about
the same
Hootie.
room.
Hootie is the question mark in this whole thing. Hootie is the key.
He's far and away the most powerful character.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, hang on a second. That thought just came back. Sorry. So, a fan sent me I saw an animatic. It's fan fiction, total fan fiction. I'm not saying it's just an animatic. Which, by the way, shout out to the Owl House fans, by the way, and their fan art, their fan fictions, and their animatics. They are phenomenal.
Some of
Like,
the AUs too.
Exactly. Like I've not seen great stuff like this since the Hey Arnold fandom. I have to say it's phenomenal what we've seen. But someone suggested me an animatic, and it shows Luz defending her mother in
Yes.
fight against Ballas, and then all of a sudden her mother gets up and walks towards Ballas, and then throws the Good Witch Azura book to the side. And then Gus and Willow rip open the hardcover and discover something in the book, and then they try to furiously hold Luz back to say, "No, don't go save your mother. There's something you don't know about her." And then you just see this whole transformation taking place. And then they say, "Look, the reason why we're trying to stop you and tell you this," and then Luz comes to the realization, "My mother is Good Witch Azula." And then the whole thing, there's an animatic about that.
That would be incredible.
That would be incredible. So I don't know, like whether it will make any sense or not. I'm not entirely sure. But I mean, it's just I just saw that and I thought, the fans, they're switched on, they're tuned in, and they know what they want to see, and they're paying attention as well. And like some of the stuff that I've read and some of the stuff that they've done, wow, they know what's up.
Yeah.
Speaking of Luz's mom, one thing we haven't brought up is the letters that she's been getting, which a lot of people think is Ida. I don't
think
know
it's
if I
Ida.
buy
No,
into
I
that.
don't think it is.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't really see. I don't know. I don't get the point of it being Ida and them having this big ominous, who's doing this?
Now we no longer have the door to the Earth realm. So maybe the letters are gonna stop, and maybe in season 2, maybe it's like a segue. Her mother finds out she's not at the camp, and then there's like this whole ruckus that's going on Earth realm, like figure out where's this girl gone. Like it's all over the news, like the whole country's freaking out, like where's she gone? And maybe that's all taking place while season 2 is taking place. Maybe that's also a possibility too.
Mhm.
Season 2 takes place entirely at the reality camp that she was supposed to go to.
Like, who knows? Like, also this camp reality thing, for all we know, like it could be a trap. I mean, like in Hey Arnold the Jungle movie, the writing contest to get Arnold over San Lorenzo was a trap. Maybe that might have been a trap that she should probably have like fallen into, and she didn't. And like maybe that in itself might be a story. So like who knows? There's that too, and yeah, there's so much going on in my mind right now. There's so much stuff that we could just go through in
Yeah.
all of this. But but here's the thing about there's one thing I do want to say about season 3. That keep this in mind. Like, this isn't set in stone yet. Like, this season 2 isn't just come out yet, so we don't know what the response is going to be from the fans. Like, right now there's a whole letter writing operation currently going on with the Owl House fans at the moment. They're screeching that they want more episodes of the show. And by the way, from what I've seen so far, like, I believe this show could go on for 100 episodes. I really do. And don't get me wrong, though. I don't want this to be like, oh, hey, this can go on forever, and like there's going to be like 30 seasons and stuff like that. Eventually it's got to stop somewhere. I don't want it to be like this thing where Disney just want to keep it alive because they want to keep the merchandise going. I'd really hate it if it turned into that kind of situation. But I really do believe that there's an epic story here in the Owl House, and definitely a story that I've not been inspired by for a very long time. I don't think. And so I believe that Disney should keep this going, if at least for the classic 100 episodes that we normally get with a pretty good show. If it keeps going on for that, but yes, there'll be weak episodes. They always are. But I do believe the good will outweigh the bad in the end of the day, and I really do think they should go for it. And so there's Owl House fans. If they're going to be writing these letters, I really hope they come through and Disney will turn around and say, yeah, maybe the season 3 thing isn't a good idea. Let's go like 20 again on season 3, and let's just see where we are. Maybe we might talk about season 4.
Yeah, maybe.
I tend to have a respect for when they do have a plan like this, because I am one of those people that worries, oh, is this going to go on forever? It feels like they started out strong, but oh no, it's season 12, and we've gone nowhere.
Yeah, as much as I love it, Friendship is Magic did not need to be 9 seasons.
Yeah, I agree with that.
How about you, Rebecca?
I mean, the other thing about Disney shows is that recently, like, they usually don't go past 3 seasons. I don't know why this is. Like, Star Versus was kind of like the exception with a season 4, but in recent years, they usually don't go past 3 seasons. But from what Dana said on Twitter, it seems that the season essentially getting condensed down to just 3 44-minute episodes like came out of nowhere and they weren't expecting it. So I mean, I don't know why they made that decision. I'm glad that we're gonna get an ending, because that's, I think, a lot more than can be said for a lot of shows that get canceled early. But I mean, if it ends up sticking with these 3 44-minute episodes, like, it's gonna be so bittersweet, because it's like, man, there could have been more. They could have gotten to elaborate on so many other things. But I mean, I know that the fandom is upset about it, and I'm hoping that Disney's listening to the cry for more episodes, because I think that Owl House is probably one of their best shows in recent years, and I think it'd kind of just be a complete drop of the ball on Disney's end to cut their 3rd season short.
So was it Disney's decision to end it at 3 seasons? Or do we
I'm
know?
not entirely sure. It seemed that at least for season 3, that it getting cut was unexpected by Dana and the crew on their end. I'm not sure if it was just like, you're done at season 3, or if season 3 was the intended season and it just got condensed. I'm not entirely sure about that, but just like with recent Disney shows, I wouldn't be surprised if it was just kind of like that's where they were heading from the beginning, and then they just cut it short.
I'm just hoping they have the time to make those 3 episodes. If that is all they can do, make them as good as possible for the ending they want.
It's kind of weird that they're asking for these episodes. Like, why not just make TV movies if that's going to be the case, and just say, oh, hey, we'll give you these 2 TV movies, wrap everything up in these 2 movies, and then obviously good night, God bless. It's kind of weird that they said, okay, let's do 44-minute episodes. I get a bit, as a Hey Arnold fan, I do get a bit of a bad vibe from this, because obviously when Craig Bartlett was told that, like, oh, well, we'll give you some specials just to hold you over. And so we're going to give you the April Fool's Day episodes, and then we're going to give you the Journal episode. And you know what? I will say, and I will be very angry at Disney if they did this, and I'll feel so bad for the Hey Owl House fans if this happens to be, like, if the very last TV movie we have, like, Lou saying, Eda King, you've got to see this. I found a map to get myself back to the Earth realm. We go for that, and that's the end.
Spider-Man, the animated series ending.
Yeah. I feel so bad for him because I've been there. It's horrible. We spent years trying to get that Jungle movie made. I spent years trying to help Craig Bartlett get back into the Nickelodeon fold, and it was what should have happened in 2004 happened in 2017. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. My biggest concern is with them only getting those 3 45-minute specials is they don't do what they did to Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure, a show that deserved better treatment from the channel, where they constantly changed what time of day it's airing.
I hate when networks do this, where they have conflicting and inconsistent time schedules. I mean, a lot of shows get canceled because of that, because they don't know when it's going to air. Tron Uprising is a great example, in which like it used to air around Friday nights, then they moved it over to Mondays around midnight, and then nobody was able to watch it because they didn't know what time it was going to be airing. Or they could do the Legend of Korra route, in which like we're going to have the episodes released exclusively on Nick.com, or and we're not going to air the episodes until months later. It's like, yeah, people are not going to know about this. And I think with the advent of streaming services, and Aaron and I, we discussed about this, where, a lot of these, countries are going to not have Disney Channel or Disney Now or any of these major channels anymore. And they're going to be like really strictly focusing on Disney Plus. So I guess maybe, for people saying like, hey, you want to watch, this show is going to be exclusively there and it's not going to air anywhere else. So, it's going to be troublesome for a lot of people.
It's weird.
I've noticed got canceled like 6 times because of the time slots moving. So it's something that happens even with really popular good shows.
I really don't understand Disney's, thinking in this, because, what makes you think that people are going to want to patiently wait for, the Owl House to become available on Disney Plus in international countries? They're going to find ways to get through it. Like, they're going to be like bugging their like American relatives to get like DirecTV logins to like, they'll get like VPNs to like, tune into Disney. Oh, they'll go through pirating. They are going to want to know what's going on, and they're not going to want to wait. And so, Disney, I think, are making a mistake saying, oh, hey, we're going to, just release it on Disney Channel in America first. And then once we go through all like the entire season, then we'll just release on Disney Plus, a couple of weeks later. I was just gonna say, I think there's a weird disconnect with executives at animated studios nowadays. I know this is obviously not Disney, but Cartoon Network, I'll be frank, was just incompetent with how it handled like Steven Universe and Adventure Time. That was another show that aired on Mondays and then later Thursdays, and then they just Adventure Time, that is, and then they just started throwing it around, and then the ratings tanked, and they were like, oh, well, I guess we got to end it. And it was entirely because of, I believe it was entirely because of that just sort of incompetent handling of the schedule that led to a lot of that. And I feel like I worry that Disney could be doing the same thing. And I feel like they did that with Gravity Falls too, where they just we're going to drop an episode and then 4 months later, here's a new one. That is just not a way to keep an audience engaged. Yeah, there's also another aspect of this as well, just going back to the Owl House, and that is that, me and Patricia have been very familiar with like the politics that go on backstage at all these, these companies, and, people wanting their spot and like, saying people, need to move away, and you shouldn't say this and you shouldn't say that on social media and stuff like that. And we know that Dana is very outspoken on social media and very outspoken in her streams. And, she did an entire stream to like, get Donald Trump out of the White House, for crying out loud. So like, it was, she's not afraid to, throw her punches when need be, and rightly so. My big goal, I mean, it's rich for me as like, a ranting, raving talk radio host to turn around and say, yeah, people should be more outspoken about stuff. Of course, I'm going to say that, I'm in that group of people who do that. But I really, unfortunately, with that, and with Dana being involved in this large corporation, obviously, I could probably imagine a few people at Disney aren't going to like the way that she carries herself, I think, in public. And I think they're going to take issue with that. And maybe that also might have also played a part in the fact that, the reason why season 3 got so rapidly cut short, because they just want to like say, okay, we're done here. Let's move on to somebody who isn't going to cause us, too much ruckus.
Sad because these behaviors are exactly what's made her my favorite creator at any of these companies in recent times.
Yeah, if these companies get rid of these people, they're idiots. They're going to go be successful somewhere else. Who are going to be willing to do. I think whatchamacallit. There's been people who like just set up independently and like they've been really massively successful.
The thing that stinks about that is that they'll be so obsessive about like, don't say this, don't do that, don't say this. No, we can't do that. We can't do this. And then when an episode drops that, like, for instance, has LGBTQ plus representation, they're like, see, we're a good network. We understand. And it's like, oh, so you're taking credit. I mean, they're just taking credit for what works and then trying to micromanage everything else, and it's just a mess.
It's almost June. Get ready for that in full force from every company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, we're an equal opportunities employer. Like, please ignore the fact that we still have, the Snow White actress, under a severe contract where she can't work for anyone ever again, even though she's dead.
Happy rainbow capitalism, everybody.
It's just
yeah. So Rebecca, going into the interviews that you did with Dana and Matt, especially with how the treatment was with how the seasons was going on for the Owl House. I mean, we already know about just how incredibly unfortunate that season 2 finale of Amphibia was leaked before it was properly released, and then with the strict guidelines that Disney did with the Owl House before they like loosened it up. Like, how would you say that when you were talking to them, like how they personally were feeling with all the restrictions right before they were like led up to saying, okay, we have to play by this set of rules, but at the same time, I want to be able to express the way I want to be able to create my properties?
I mean, the interview that I did with Matt and Dana was before the whole True Colors thing, and like, man, if the timing on that had been different, I don't know if Matt would have agreed to do that interview or not, just with that whole situation, because I know he and the crew were really excited for that episode to come out, and now that it is out, like, you can see why, because it was easily the best episode of the series so far. But I mean, in talking to them, I mean, Dana has always been outspoken about her thoughts on working for Disney and within the company. I mean, like we were talking before, she was getting, notes from executives, like 6 different executives up until like Understanding Willow. Like in terms of like the LGBT stuff, it was an issue more so in development, and then that was pretty quickly resolved. And then ever since then, she said that any issues or notes that they get is never because the character or there's a plot thread that's related to, an LGBTQ, related character or anything like that, which is good and reassuring to know, because I think Disney especially has been kind of just like dead last when it comes to like animation studios, representing, that particular community. So, I mean, and that's kind of the thing with Disney. It's like, I felt like we went from nothing to just like very explicit characters like really quickly. There was like no easing in or just like, oh, like here's this side character, or like, oh, here's like, a potential maybe a plot thread with an LGBTQ romance or anything like that. It was just very explicit very quickly, which is, I think, is great and wonderful. I mean, Matt, up until the True Colors thing, he didn't seem to have any major issues that he spoke of with people at Disney. I know after the whole True Colors thing, he was very vocal on Twitter about people, not watching it, keeping spoilers, under lock and key and everything like that. And then I think, it's interesting on Twitter because, you do still work for a company, even though it's, their personal Twitter and they can, voice their opinions. But I do understand how it can kind of, be a bit of a slippery slope. I know that he was not happy with the way it was handled. Disney, after polling the episode less than 24 hours before it was supposed to air, and then it leaking at midnight and then delaying it for 3 weeks, that was poorly handled. I mean, there's no way to, go about it otherwise than saying that.
The whole True Colors situation is just, it really showcases that this whole operation at these companies is a lot more day to day than we'd probably like to think. It feels right to assume this 100-year-old corporation would have a plan in place. Nope, they just, all these last minute mistakes that completely throw everything to the wayside is really concerning for shows like The Owl House and Amphibia.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have this like, I mean, 35 years old, and I like to think I'm not as gullible as I used to be when I was back in my younger days. But I used to think, oh well, they're a massive corporation. How can they do anything wrong? I invite everybody to watch a show called Dark Side of the Ring and watch the episode "The Final Days of Owen Hart." And I can guarantee you that you can be as big as a corporation as you want. There's going to be incompetence at the very highest points, and it's. Unfortunately, we can't, just because it's a massive corporation doesn't mean they don't make terrible mistakes. And believe me, the Amphibia debacle, I think, that took place is, I think, just unforgivable. I think it's just, heads should have rolled at that particular time, I think.
I can
in
barely
regards to
wrap
that.
my head around what happened. It was so stupid.
I
It
know.
was. And you do bring up an interesting point, Rebecca, when you were saying about like Disney being dead last when it comes to their LGBTQ representations, because every time there's a new character, they always announce Disney introduces first LGBTQ character. It's like out of what, a dozen?
The last 5, that they always,
Yeah,
make a tweet
exactly.
about.
Like what happened to
What-
Gaston? What happened to the character from Onward? The character from Frozen? Did you forget about them, or were they like testing the waters? But then it's like, no, this is the real first introduction.
One interesting thing I'd like to throw in here, and that I wonder if what happened with Dana in regards to LGBTQ came in at a very interesting time for Disney, because when was the whole Mulan, outrage that took place? When they found out that some of the shots of Mulan were taking place in the same place that they're allegedly torturing those Uyghur Muslims in that part of the world, in Xinjiang province. Was that taking place at the same time that was all going on? I think
I think that was 2019 when the movie was filming.
still, kind of nearby. But I remember they got, Disney got a lot of heat over that, I believe, and to the point where it was almost going to be turning into like a congressional investigation at one point. So I was wondering if that probably they said, yeah, let's lighten up on control a little bit here, and let's try and distract everybody with the fact that, hey, we're going to be a bit more open about this kind, for certain things, become a bit more socially liberal, in comparison to China, which is very socially conservative in some aspects. I don't know. I wonder if it was kind of like just a reaction to that, but that's just a theory. I don't know that for.
I don't know that either,
Obviously,
but all I know is that the other networks are definitely like stepping up their game when it comes to like proper representation. I mean, we already talked about Cartoon Network. Nickelodeon is doing the same thing with like Koren Asami and with the Loud
House.
Yeah, the Loud House is also another one. So yeah, just recently, Blue's Clues and You just released a Pride Month music video featuring Nina West, who is a very well-known drag queen, and there was like a Pride parade that was featured there, and there was a lot of people posting on social media saying, I grew up with Blue's Clues as a kid, and I wish that I should have seen this 25 years ago, which that's pretty awesome to see that. So yeah, I mean, Disney needs to if they really need to step up their game, if they want to really target this particular demographic for sure, because all the other networks are really luring them into that. So I think that with the Owl House, I think that is definitely like a major step towards a proper representation, because of how hugely popular Luce and Amity are. I mean, they're right up there with like Marceline and Bubblegum and Katra and Adora and Koren Asami in terms of like characters that they really like to see together.
Who knew that? So, we were finally going to see the day where, cartoons were going to finally stick it to quote unquote 1 million moms. I'm so happy at this point.
I'm still upset that 1 million moms, especially right here around Alabama where I'm at, were one of the reasons why we never got to see the Arthur episode with Mr. Ratburn, why we never got to see that on television, and I had to watch it online on the Arthur website.
Yeah, so
1
it's just
million moms, more people with a Planet Fitness subscription.
Right.
One of the best things about the Luce and Amity relationship, especially in terms of Disney, is it's moving away from something that's always been problematic with Disney, is that so many other villains are gay coded.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Whereas now we get main characters that are gay coded. This is still an issue in modern day. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have seen Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure.
I have not.
No.
Well, slight spoilers. Rapunzel's best friend, Cassandra, becomes a villain in season 3, and one of the writers confirmed she is gay coded as well.
Okay, cool.
Well, like, hey, we've, out of all the ships that we've seen sail, like, I think the Lumity one, I think, is probably the most wonderful to see. So, like, it's even goes to the point where, like, like, fan fiction just goes into overdrive. Like, like, there's weddings, there's, like, there's them, so,
I remember that one joke that Luz Batista did on one of the live streams where she was drawing Ida like I think it was like Sephiroth or something, and then she was like pretending to give spoilers of the show, and then it was like when Dana and Spencer were taking a break, and then they came back and there was like, oh, I hope you didn't give any spoilers, and then she's like, oh, I just gave one, and they live happily ever after the big wedding.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the web comic of the Blight family where Emra says she likes girls and Mr. Blight does anyone in this house like boys? And then Edric sticks his head out and says, I do.
No, I
I
haven't.
did see that one.
Oh man, that's brilliant. But like I do, I think this whole relationship between Luz and Amity, I think is going to be something special.
Oh, yeah.
I really do think it is, and I think it's also giving people a lot of imagination to stuff as well. So like it's mind you, I doubt that we'll ever get this scene, but imagine they decide to do obviously tie the knot in literal pagan sense, but then they have to have Mr. and Mrs. Blight on one side of the room and then Luz's mom on the other side of the room. It's kind of like, yeah, it's the awkwardness in the room is just we're just the comedy just writes itself.
It kind of reminds me of that Rocko's Modern Life episode where Filbert and Dr. Hutchison got married, and in the show it's been established that that turtles and cats are enemies, and there's like this big awkwardness where they're like together and they're just so angry of being on the side of each other. So they were like, yeah, let's just have a drive-through wedding instead so that we don't have to deal with the complications of the families.
Yeah, it's like you got Luz trying to get to his mom, and he's like, Mom, why did you bring a scalpel from work? It's like, just protection.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Well,
so go ahead.
That's so funny because on DeviantArt, I've seen people imagine what Luz and Amity's kid would look like too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's pretty much all that we have to say for now. Right before we, give our final thoughts. For those who are tuning in as of the recording of this podcast, I know that the first 2 episodes will be presented at the Paley Center for those who have purchased tickets. I just want to say for those who have seen it, please don't post spoilers online. Nobody likes that. And
well, I think for me, I think it's just going to be like, this is what I hate about this. Like, eventually it's going to come out. Also there's going to be that virtual screening as well. People aren't going to help themselves. They're going to be telling people what's going on. And for me, like spoilers for me aren't such a big deal in a sense. Like, I will hear about something that happens. I mean, the same thing happened with Amphibia with this whole True Colors, debacle. Like, all of a sudden again, like I said at the beginning of this episode, you hear a smash and it's kind of like, oh, you go outside and you see what's happening, and you say, oh, okay, then then you end up kind of like saying, well, I want the context of this, and then you actually end up watching the show.
Right.
So I guess spoilers for me aren't going to be too bad. I would probably still watch the show regardless and just see, okay, is it executed well? And if it is, then great, and if not, then I'll complain about it. But
okay, that's fair enough. But
that being said, the people who are going to spoil it are going to spoil it no matter what we say. So be on the lookout until you've seen the episodes if you do care about spoilers.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I do know that there is a subreddit that's going to be called The Secret Is a Book Club that will be specifically to discuss those episodes. So if you're someone who's like really just itching to discuss, that's a place that you can do it without having to worry about spoiling others. So go over there if you want to. But yeah, just like Twitter, Tumblr, anything like that, Instagram, YouTube, just don't say anything. Don't ruin it for others. Just because you want to get spoiled and doesn't mean that others do. So just be courteous and respectful to everyone.
This is the reason why you can see behind me with all these cards. This is the reason why I'm a soccer fan. Like, soccer is live, and you can't get spoiled about what's going to happen at the end. So it's like, the drama's there on the field.
Yeah. There you go. Anyway, so final thoughts going into where season 1 presented itself, and how do you think that the show does overall with knowing that season 2 is going to be airing this Saturday?
you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead. Go
Yeah,
for it.
okay. So I think season 2 obviously is going to be a much darker tone than what we're used to. I think in season 1, definitely. So I mean, we're looking at probably like a TMNT Red Sky situation. I think at this point, like, you know, where the action's just going to be turned up to the max. We're going to obviously. I mean, here's the thing about this. I really hope they do keep some of like the fun of the show. You know, in this, like, I still want King to like be King, and I still want, you know, there to be like, you know, poking fun at like, you know, fantasy tropes and things like that. I would like to still see stuff like that, but obviously, you know, the main part of this is going to obviously be the storytelling, and that's going to be the main part of that. There's going to be twists and turns in the Lumity ship. There's going to be all sorts of like, you know, friendships being tested, I think, in this as well. And obviously, we're going to be tested with various other, you know, new characters coming in too. And so, and also, I think we might get some questions answered that, you know, we had so itchingly wanted to have answered in season 1. Will it be all of them? Probably not. But I like to think it's going to be a significant amount of them. So, yeah.
And final thoughts on season 1.
My thoughts on season 1. You know, even when Disney had their fingers in the pie, you know, like I still thought, hey, you know, they're still pulling off something really good here. You know, I thought the first episode was a great impression. I think that they left on people, I thought, and then they just kind of like just carried it on, and you know, finally, you know, Disney allowed, you know, to take the toy training wheels off, and then he's let, you know, Dana go off and you know, go 100 miles an hour on the bicycle and just, you know, go do all the great things. And on top of that, we got some great episodes out of it. We got a great show. We got a great setup. And yeah, I think it leaves a lot of people looking forward to season 2 and even season 3, even though it's not going to be the thing that they expect. But you know, we don't know that for a fact yet. You know, let's get to the end of season 2 and then let's see where we are with the fans demanding more Owl House.
Okay, so season 1 is great. I honestly think Disney Channel is in a renaissance of animated TV shows right now. And it's the Owl House. It goes back and forth between this and Kim Possible as my favorite animated Disney show of all time. And I think what makes the Owl House work is the fantasy setting doesn't take itself too seriously while still presenting an interesting mystery for our characters of who Bellows is. But the most important thing is it has strong relationships for all the characters. And as for season 2, I don't know where it's going to go, but I hope those relationships continue to grow and develop. And one of the biggest things I hope comes out of it is, as much as I love Luce being a dork, I hope she is a little less oblivious to Amity's crush on her.
Well, I think that's part of like the whole thing going. I think something serious is going to have to happen. I think for Luce to you know, break that whole thing. I think, and so
he's being the shonen protagonist at the moment.
Yeah.
Characters really are at the heart of pretty much every good piece of fiction in terms of, you know, us appreciating the events as they are. You know, even the fight scenes are better because we care about the characters involved, things like that. But what's unique about season 1 of the Owl House to me is at pretty much every episode nearly is an improvement on the previous one in every aspect of storytelling, which we actually touched on this earlier, how a lot of this was because of the controls loosening on the writing team the further into the season you got. So I don't remember who brought it up earlier, but if they continue that trend, even if season 3 ends up being a disappointment because of losing a lot of the time they had, I think season 2 is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see how the show can continue to improve upon what it has established, because I definitely agree with that. The early episodes could be a little clunky at times, but by the end of the season, you could really tell they were kind of on a roll there. So I'm very excited to see where it's going to go.
I mean, just kind of like echoing what you guys said, like the momentum that they had the last, you know, 4 episodes of season 1 was just phenomenal. And it's like, if they can, you know, can keep that going for season 2, especially with, like Dana said, that there's like going to be darker themes involved. You know, I know like King's past is going to be discussed in season 2, and like that was a big huge plot thread that was never like elaborated on in season 1. Obviously we'll get more about like Bellos and the Titans, so they have, all these things going for it for season 2. But I mean, in terms of like season 1 specifically, I think like it just came at just such for the show itself, like an incredible time. Because I mean, if you think about it, after the first 10 episodes finished airing, I think it ended in like March of like 2020, which was like quarantine time, like when that was just starting to pick up. It was also when Steven Universe Future ended. So it was kind of this time where, people were looking for, another show to kind of fill like that hole in their heart from Steven Universe. And then, with quarantine, people are sitting at their houses like, hey, I don't have anything to watch. So like, it just kind of became this show for everybody to just kind of like jump onto and just kind of immerse themselves in, in that world. And I think that was just like, obviously that was not a foreseen thing that they could have predicted, but I think it was just like for the show itself, like that was the perfect time for it to come out. And I think we're seeing just like how incredible that response has been from fans who jumped on during that quarantine times.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's one important thing I think to note as well, that the fact that we're going through such a pretty terrible time at the moment, I think across the world, I think the Owl House has come in as I think is a very good time, and because I mean I was just expecting just kind of like just roll back the years really and go through doing all sorts of like other cartoon shows, and me and Patricia were talking about doing some other stuff like from the Jerry Anderson days, and possibly like finally getting around to doing Gravity Falls and doing but even doing Bucky O'Hare and So Wars, like that classic show. But all of a sudden here's the Owl House, and it's like, oh wow, this has really captured our imaginations and our attention. So pressure's on. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, like season 2's gonna have to deliver. I don't think he's gonna get a choice in the matter. I think he wants to continue his role, and so let's just see what they have to deliver.
Yeah, final thoughts for me. I really enjoyed the first season. It had this great balance of being really, really funny, but at the same time, it really like tugged into your heartstrings. And you had the relationship with all the characters and just broadening up such interesting themes and morals that I hadn't seen in a show in a while. And the fact that I was able to relate to a lot of them just really speaks, personally for me. And I cannot wait to see what season 2 has to offer, especially with the stakes getting higher, with the portal of the Earth being destroyed, and with both Ida and with Lilith sharing the curse of the Owl Beast, and then Emperor Bellows being really serious about trying to find Lou so that they can be able to fix the portal, and then the discussion with the Titan and all that kind of stuff. It really makes me intrigued at what they're going to go with that direction. And also, I really would love to, see more of the relationship between Luce and Amity. I'm hoping that that would also, flourish in the course of the series. So yeah, I'm really excited for it. I'm really invested with the Owl House, and for all the followers of Aaron and I who have been suggesting for us to watch the Owl House, thank you so much for doing so, because it's been an amazing experience. And you can see on the screen, if you're watching this on YouTube, that we both have our Owl House shirts. So we decided to like rock it out. So there you go.
I'll tell you, actually, going back to, one thing that we actually didn't discuss, that, Emma Bellows might be rebuilding this portal, but Lou still has the key. I don't know if anyone notices that. She never handed over the key, so she still got that. So, I don't know, like, one funny thing I like to see, I don't know if they never do this, but, Ember Bellows fixes the portal, and he thinks he's going to, like, go back to the same place, but then he, like, ends up in, like, other places. Like, he'll walk through the door and, like, I don't know, like, they'll be, like, he'll walk into, like, Beavis and Butthead's house or something like that, and, like, just, like, they're just sitting there, like, can you get out of the way of the TV, please? And not realize, like, this big behemoth has just come through the door. Like,
he ends up in Equestria.
There you go.
He swaps places with the girl from The Ring.
Anything. It's like a big, guessing game as to what happens. We don't know.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much for coming on by, and I'm hoping that maybe when season 2 ends, that we can have you back to discuss about it.
That'd be really cool to do.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah, so once again, a reminder for everybody who is listening, for those who are people who purchase tickets for the Pele Center, it's going to be airing on the 9th of June. And as for the rest of us, we will be watching it on the 12th of June, which is going to be the first episode of season 2. So look forward to that when that comes out, and we'll be excited about it as well. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. We're just with this discussion about the Owl House podcast. So right before we go, usual plug and promotion. So, Rebecca, why don't you plug and promote your stuff?
Oh, okay. You can find my YouTube channel. It's Rebecca Rose, and then on Twitter it's Hey Rebecca Rose if you want to follow me on there.
Okay.
I'm Arun of the Arun Mehta Show. My talk radio show is going to be coming back next week. More information will be coming over the next couple of days. Also, to let you guys know, I found this thing called Spaces on Twitter. So if everyone's up for it, I might give it a go and see. I mean, that's to be within the next week or so. We might have a play around with that. Also, I'm on Arun and Patricia with obviously the lovely Patricia here, and so we do our podcast on there too. And also, we're still. By the way, all the people who keep asking about Dream Machine and when we're gonna do the crudes and things like that. We'll get there eventually. It's unfortunately time has not been on our side, and also here in the UK they keep putting it off. So releasing the movie, so I've not seen it yet. So I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's one person who's been saying to us, "Where is the Crude's New Age Dream Machine episode? It came out in Thanksgiving." Well, for Aaron, it doesn't come out until July, and so by then, not only will we have to discuss about Crude's New Age, but the new Spirit movie will be out as well. So we need to talk about that, and then the new Boss Baby will be coming out, a few months afterwards. So yeah, we'll be catching up with Dream Machine. So don't you worry, everybody.
With the new Spirit movie, I wonder if we're going to get some more Bryan Adams.
I don't think so, considering that this is based off of the Netflix series, not on the movie.
Okay, then. That's a shame. Anyway, Twitter is at Arun Mehta Show, ARUNMEHTASHOW. If you want to ask me a question on Tumblr, it's arunmehta.tumblr.com. If you want to find me on Instagram, Arun Mehta Show, as always. And you can find me on various podcast feeds, which include, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify also as well. And also, if you find the Arun Mehta Show on a podcast feed, but I never shout it out, please let us know. I like to shout out all the podcast feeds and podcast networks who carry our show. And also, we are going to be looking to potentially go syndication on radio streams again as well. So I will be letting you guys know on that soon.
Okay. Go ahead, Michael.
I am Fusionator on YouTube. That's Fusion, ATER. I primarily do reaction videos, that sort of nonsense. I have reacted to The Owl House and Amphibia, 2 shows going on right now, which I'm deeply fond of. I'm right now going through the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show, if anyone wants to tune in for that. If I see anyone, hi.
Hi. Okay, how about you, Paul?
So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at PaulThomas1992. I'm also at Tumblr, GunterFan1992. I mostly talk about Adventure Time, but I do every once in a while also discuss things like Owl House and She-Ra and Gravity Falls and those sort of things.
Okay. And Timothy, one more time, you can plug and promote your blog.
Okay. You can find me on Twitter as MickeyShy12. My blogs are a look at Disney, and currently I'm doing a passion project of going through and looking at every LGBTQ plus Disney character. The latest one is on Elsa. She's probably the most popular gay-coded Disney character there is, even though Disney will never confirm it. And then my other blog series, which will probably be coming back soon, is Trotting Through Life, where I go through and review every episode of Friendship is Magic through a character retrospective of the main 6. The last one was Rainbow Dash. The next one's probably going to be Applejack.
Okay. And as for me, you can find me on youtube.com/oldschoollane, facebook.com/oldschoollane. I'm on Twitter at Patty_B_Miranda. You can check out my podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, Overcast, many places. New episodes of my podcast, Casual Chats and Old School Lane interviews will go there first, and then they'll go up in a few days on YouTube. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Let us know in the comments below about your thoughts on season 1 of the Owl House. Who were your favorite characters? What were your favorite episodes? What were your favorite moments? What were your thoughts on the big plot twist that happened with the last 2 episodes? What are your thoughts are going to be for season 2, and what do you think that the direction that's going to be going on? I'm actually genuinely curious. And shout outs for all the fans out there who continue to make creativity with their fan art and their fan fictions and their animatics and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much for listening. Hope to see you around soon, and take care.
Take care, everybody.